Peace Summit. I think some of you have been to previous peace summits. And what we're here to do today is to meet each other face to face if we haven't done that in the past. And furthermore, to build the Guard Home campaign, to build a strategy or to develop a strategy for the peace movement here in Oregon, and also to improve our communication statewide. Those are the objectives. I want to thank a bunch of people who've helped make this possible today. April Wincoop, our office manager, who's upstairs registering. Another is Linda Fuller over here. Raise your hand, Linda. Linda over here is from our staff and who's been helping put everything together here today. Diane Rushkamp, I think she's upstairs. John Roy Wilson, who's a member of the Oregon PeaceWorks Board and has taken the responsibility for all the food that you're going to be consuming today. I think he's in the kitchen. We definitely appreciate him. And not only,
there he is.
give him another big hand, John Roy Wilson. Not only is he a member of the board and your food prep person, but he's also personally covered the cost of the facility here today so that we could keep the registration costs low. Also in the kitchen right now are Karen Sjogren and Jim Welsh helped us put things together too. Jim, are you here? I think they're probably in the kitchen. So with thanks to all those people, also mentioning the Oregon PeaceWorks Board, we have a couple of other board members here today. Ken McCormick is right here, and Hans West. Hans? Okay, now let me ask you a few things. Let me ask you how many people are here from Salem? Stand up. Okay. How many people are here from Portland? Stand up. How many here from the coast? All right. How many here from Eugene? All right. With more expected, you know how Eugenians are. How many people from? How many people from Corvallis? All right, strong unit there, huh?
There's a bunch more Corvallis people upstairs.
Yeah, well, they're kind of halfway to Eugene, you see, so. All right, how many people from east of the mountains? All right. That's wonderful. Anybody from Southern Oregon? Anybody we didn't mention yet? From where?
Lafayette.
Lafayette, pretty close to Portland. And Silverton, great, yes, right. More Silverton. Lebanon, all right. So we're well represented. It's wonderful to see everybody here. Let me ask you this. Please stand up now if you've been involved in peace movement activities for 1 year or less. Less. 1 year or less. All right. Stay standing. How about 2 years or less? How about 3 years or less? All right. How about 5 years or less? How about 10 years or less? Stay standing. 10 years or less. How about 15 years or less? Okay. How about 20 years or less? How about 30 years or less? All right, we've got a lot of long-distance runners here. How about 40 years or less? Oh, no, actually it's more. All right, 40 years or more. All right, well, everybody is standing now. So you guys are just the best, and we couldn't do any of this work in the state of Oregon without you folks. You know that. And so we thank you for being here. We thank you for all the work that you've done. And we want to celebrate ourselves and each other, all right? Okay. One of the things that I personally, in my 40-plus years of involvement, really miss these days, I really miss that we don't have the kind of music in the movement that we used to have. But we're doing something about it. There are groups all over the country that are really working on this, and we have a bunch of them here, and they're the Raging Grannies from Corvallis, Oregon. Step right up and give us a little music.
Go grannies, go grannies, go grannies, go grannies, go grannies.
Are you all concerned about the future?
Yes.
Do you think we are leaving behind a mess for our grandkids?
Yes.
Well, I bet you thought there wasn't much you could do about it, but there is. You can be part of a Raging Granny group, or gaggle as we call ourselves, any place in the state. Just form a few friends. They don't even have to really be able to sing. They just need enthusiasm. We dress up in silly, extravagant hats with sometimes aprons or shawls, and we sing satirical songs that have been created by the people in our group, and we sing them to really well familiar tunes, so we don't have to learn especially the music. We just need the words in front of us. The groups of Raging Grannies were begun in Canada back in 1987, and we are all politically conscious but nonpartisan. We have high ideals, and we want to promote global social and economic equality and peace and justice. So we have some handouts with the words to the songs that we'll be singing this morning and again at noontime. So if you want one of these handouts to take home with you or to sing along, I'll put it over here in the Department of Peace table right here under the peace symbol, and you can pick one up to take with you. It has the words in it that we're going to be singing. We're singing really sort of 3 songs at the beginning, and we'll join with you after lunch and sing some more, and we hope if you know any of those tunes, you can hum along with us anyway. So I'm sort of supposed to be the song leader, so we have our own routine of how we get ready, so bear with us. One, two, three. Hey there, we welcome change at last. These big issues need our attention fast. All folks deserve to be healthy, not just the very wealthy. And no child left behind was very unkind. The damage to kids was vast. Hey there, more of our laundry list. Bear in mind that grannies are activists. On the issue of Roe versus Wade, we'll work to make certain it's saved. In our progress we trust, women's rights are a must. Equal pay we demand, we insist. Hey there, hearken, give this quote some thought. Watching Earth decay is not a spectator sport. To make our climate safer, recycle glass and paper. Green and sustain and duly maintain to cut all use quart by quart. Hey there, we need to help those whose hopes were dashed. Jobs, pensions, benefits were cut or badly slashed. It's proper to own up to fear, but it's urgent we all volunteer. Compassion to show, some pleasures forego. Look forward, not dwell on the past. A lot of the words to the songs we're singing today have been written by Ruth Aaron.
Yay,
So, you'll notice if you pick up the flyer, it attributes who the words come from, and we share these lyrics with others on the Granny e-vine on the internet. So we contribute and they contribute to us, and so we have a nice mix of good songs. But thank you, Ruth, for being so very good at making words go together. Okay. Our next one is the Oregon Guard home song. 1, 2, 3.
We want our voices heard. Please tend to every word. Our guard belongs at home, their duties to perform. What is your sense of fair? Our guard has done its share. Do not our guard deploy to protect or destroy. The guard's been in Iraq. Please do not send them back. Keep guards where they belong, right here in Oregon. The guard's been in Iraq. Please do not send them back. Keep guards where they belong, right here in Oregon. Millions are in Rwanda. I'm not sure how that affects me, but I do know about all the killing. I watched it at home on TV. The endless wars go on in Gaza, and every side you see, many innocent people are dying. I watched it at home on TV. Women are raped in Darfur. Millions are having to flee. Whole families are living in terror. I watched it at home on TV. Stop wars, stop wars. We must stop the killing right now, somehow. Stop wars, stop wars. We must stop the killing right now. 1 million have died in Iraq. 4 million are now refugees. Plus thousands are dead in Afghanistan. I see it at home on TV. We all must go out and do something, no matter how small it may be. We cannot stop wars and killing by watching it at home on TV. Stop wars, stop wars. We must stop the killing right now, somehow. Stop wars, stop wars. We must stop the killing right now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Raging Grannies. Raging Granny gaggles all over the place. You can plug into one if you want. That is, if you're a rager and a granny.
You could be a grandpa.
Grannies of all genders, okay. Could I ask you to get out your packet? Just want to introduce you briefly to the contents. The orange sheet that you'll have on the left side is your agenda for today's activities. Please take a look at it. Behind it is an evaluation form on the pink paper that we'd very much like to have you fill out and leave with us before the end of the day. I'll remind you about this probably several more times, so please make time to fill out the evaluation before you leave. On the right side is the Guard Home brochure, a couple of postcards that you hopefully will write to your congresspeople, or not congresspeople, but legislators, before you leave and give over to Leah here. The Oregon Peace Summit objectives, I already told you what they were, but they're just to remind you what we're doing here today. They're at the top there, and our Oregon Peace Summit ground rules are below it. And they're just the basic rules of behaving respectfully toward one another, and just reminding one another that we are trying to do things in an orderly and constructive manner. On the yellow sheet is the list of all the people who registered, and hopefully we have everybody who registered on this sheet front and back. So just in case you need that information, you've got it. And we don't put this information on our website because people have objected to that. So this is the only place where you're going to be able to pick it up, is this contact information. However, if you want your organizational information to be on our website, we'd be happy to put it there. So we don't put it up there without asking. Behind that, on the purple paper, is the contact information for all the legislators in the Oregon legislature, the House members on the left and the senators on the right. And this will help you in terms of doing the lobbying that we hope that you'll be doing for the Guard Home campaign and other issues. And last but certainly not least is the Oregon Peace Summit strategy question sheet. And we'll be getting back to that at the beginning of the strategy session, so I won't go through that now. But please keep hold of all this material, and we hope that you'll be finding it all useful during the course of the day. With that, I want to just take a few minutes at the beginning of today's activities. And again, I'd like to ask you to flow into these seats over here so we have more of a circle, if you will. A few people could get up and move over into these seats and those ones over there. Because what we're going to do right now is share our victory stories a little bit. We want to make them real short. Try and keep your victory story to less than 1 minute. We don't have time for everybody to speak, but we'd like to get as many stories as we can out real quick, so that you can tell us what you've done in your group. I'm going to cut you off if you take more than a minute, so please do it quickly, but tell us something that's encouraging and inspiring about what your work has been over the last year or so. Okay, you want to come through?
Where do you want us over here?
George, yeah, take a seat over here. Anybody else want to fill in here? It'll be a lot more convenient than getting in from the back there. Okay, so who wants to tell us our first victory story?
I will.
All right.
I brought the HR 808, the Department of Peace legislation, to the Corvallis City Council and asked for them to endorse it. And I got a very positive response from them, and they endorsed it.
All right. Wonderful. All right, who else? Yes.
A member of our group, which I think he's like 71, Bob, placed last year something like over 200 copies of War is a Racket by Smedley Butler into schools all
Great.
over.
All right.
Yeah.
Getting the word to the next generation, that's really important. Who else? Another victory story, yeah.
The Acting for Peace and Justice group at the United Methodist Church in Corvallis had put up over a year and a half ago cost of war signs of deaths in war with numbers on that changed weekly. And somebody complained, because they're larger than the city allows, so we had to take them down in the fall, but we had other people then volunteer because we got a front page picture about that, the sign being taken down, so people volunteered. So they're up again, right across from one of our middle schools there in Corvallis on a really major street that you can see. So that's good.
All right, good work, good work. What else have people done? Yes, Barb.
Peace Action group of the First Unitarian Church in Portland decided to have people set up tables at the farmers markets. And I was lucky enough to get the Hollywood Farmers Market. And it was so fabulous that in 2 hours, 2 of us could get 100 signatures on the GUARD petition.
Great. Good work. Yes, Charles.
Peace Village is a nonprofit peace education organization. We have 10 camps that teach nonviolence to children ages 6 to 13 in 6 states and 10 locations. But during the last year, we started a peace education charter high school in Eugene with 4 teachers and about 50 students. And we also started an adult effort which has to do with gathering interfaith congregations to commit to teaching nonviolence in their congregations. And that'll grow the first year from Oregon congregations, second year to the Northwest, and the third year some modest stops nationally.
All right.
Wonderful, Charles. Who else? Yes.
My name's Stan Taylor, and I'm from Eugene as well. And last year at Lane Community College, we established a peace center for the first time, focusing on peace studies and peace and education. And we also put on a major conference last year in February. We'll be putting on another one here in May. So I have information on that for everybody as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for bringing that information. I was at that. It was great. Katie.
I'm Katie Field, and in Portland, the PDX Peace Coalition in October put on a Portland Winter Soldier. We had testimony from veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan and other eras, and we had people also speaking to the, we had Iraqis and Afghan people speaking to the human cost of war that drew hundreds of people in the middle of that crazy election season, which was pretty great, and led to the formation of, for the first time, a Portland Iraq Veterans Against the War chapter.
Yeah. In the back.
Carrying on with Katie's comments, in March, through the generous contribution from an angel donor who wished to remain anonymous, we were able to put on a conference for all the Northwest chapters of Veterans for Peace. We have 15 chapters, about 85 members. Through that, we started to help start the Rogue River chapter. And through that, we decided we would build our own web server, host it. We're now hosting the Iraq and Afghanistan Against the War website and the coffee house up in Fort Lewis and all that other kind of stuff. So we're giving everybody that wants their own web presence.
Excellent. Excellent.
It's not a victory yet, but I think we can be proud of what's been done so far on the Guard Home campaign. That we'll hear more about it in a moment. But the fact that we have about 14 co-sponsors in the Oregon legislature, plus all of our support, means there's some momentum, and there's actually a possibility, if we all get together, of making Oregon a state that says no to the deployment of the Guard.
All right.
Phil Randall from Sensory and Peace Network in Bend, and what we're doing, since we have 2 wars occupying 2 Muslim nations, what we're trying to do in Bend is to bring Christians and Muslims together. We're having our 3rd talk, the role of women in Islam, and so we went to an Islamic potluck and met some people there. Last year we had a talk entitled Islam, a Religion of Peace, and this month we're going to have women from the Sunni and Sufi branches of Islam talk about the role of women in Islam, because what we're trying to do is to reach out between Christians and Muslims and to really break down those barriers and stereotypes that separate us.
Wonderful, thank you.
There are 4 of us in Corvallis that Valerie, Cindy jokingly calls us the Sisters of Perpetual Organizing, and we've been putting on concerts concerts 9 months out of the year for a little over 2 years now at Sunnyside Up Cafe, the second Saturday, hence the name Second Saturdays. And we have a different beneficiary each time we put it on and rotate our musicians and welcome new ones. And so we've been doing this a little over 2 years now, and we raise between $250, which is a pretty small whatever amount of money to bring in, to $1,500. And so, but it also gets the community together, and they get to hear, you know, really exactly what's happening at that moment, which is a little different to hear it from a real person than the internet. So that's just been great.
That's wonderful. We really appreciate that, too.
I'm Michael Carrigan from Eugene. Suzanne Swift, who many of you know, refused to go back to Iraq, is back home in Eugene. She's out of the military and doing well. It's a real success story. People in Eugene all around the country rallied to her support. So there's going to be a kind of a welcome home event for her coming up. Also, James Burgess, I believe his name, a young man who...
Burmeister.
Meister, sorry, who refused. Is also back in Eugene, out of jail as well. And so stay tuned for some activities to honor both of them.
Wonderful.
The National Religious Campaign Against Torture, I know a lot of cities all over Oregon have participated, but in Corvallis there were 5 churches, and it was awesome. And I think I've read that because of that, and our CAT campaign is probably one of the reasons that Obama chose those things to work on first.
All right. John?
My name is John, and I'm with an organization, a new organization called Rooms for Peace that Oregon Peaceworks was...
A little louder.
Louder.
Rooms for Peace is the organization I'm with, and Oregon Peaceworks took a bold step and affiliated with us. So what we do, we will be doing really soon, is connecting people that have guest rooms in their houses with people traveling with lodging money to support organizations like Oregon Peaceworks, and I think there's 17 other affiliates that are associated with us now.
So just so you know, the way that works is that a person, instead of paying for a motel or a hotel someplace, makes a donation to an organization and stays free at somebody's house.
Well, they don't stay free. They don't stay free because the money they were going to spend goes to that organization.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a donation, so they stay free, and then they, out of the goodness of their free will, they donate.
Whatever.
Hey, I'm for the tax guy.
Yeah, I've got Frederick from the Silverton People for Peace and the Silverton Grange as well. We've been an organization for almost 15 years now in various incarnations. We've just reestablished our web presence. Got a little display over here with our URL on it. We have a very active Yahoo list, as well as a monthly peace vigil on the 3rd Friday of every month to coincide with the Iraq moratorium. We just had a successful Martin Luther King poetry reading, well attended by about 30 or 40 people in our town. That's a lot of people. So anyway, if you're in Silverton, stop by, check us out, check out our website.
Great group.
I might add that Peter Burgell is speaking at the Silverton Grange on the 26th of February.
What was that again?
Peter Burgell is going to be speaking at the Silverton Grange on the 26th of February. Some peace news.
Corvallis Alternatives to War is doing a daily vigil in front of the courthouse. I've done that since 2002. One. Thank you. Tonight,
8 years, folks.
8 years.
Every day.
Every day. Not every person does it every day, but someone's there every day. Tonight, after this, at 5:30, the Multicultural Center in Corvallis is hosting with the Corvallis, Albany, Middle East, Friends of Middle East Peace, a fundraiser and a cultural evening to support and raise funds for children of Gaza.
Thank you. Is there one over here? Okay, Lon.
Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon has been able to get Desmond Tutu, who will be speaking in Portland I forget the exact date, I think it's May 5th.
May 5th.
May 5th,
Yes.
and tickets are available, and it's only $20 to get to hear Desmond Tutu speaking about the power of reconciliation. So folks are urged to contact either EMO, or you can get tickets directly from University of Portland, which is where the event will be taking place. And you can also get them on Ticketmaster, but then you got to pay a lot more. So.
All right, one of the world's leading peacemakers. Right there, Jack.
Yeah, I'm Jack from Eugene. I'm with Veterans for Peace there, but the last couple of years we've really been focusing on the
Speak up, Jack.
The Israel-Palestine issue. And we've been doing a weekly display with the Saturday market from April through November, about a 30-foot layout with lots of information, visuals, and so forth on Israel-Palestine, the history of the whole thing. We put up a website called al-nakba-history.com. Nakba is Arabic for catastrophe, which is what they refer to what happened in 1948. And we have hosted two very distinguished visitors to Eugene who have spoken. One is Jeff Halper, who's the director of the Israeli Committee Against House Devils, which is one of the great NGOs in Israel, and Mazen Humseya, a Palestinian scholar who wrote the book, Sharing the Land of Canaan, which is an outstanding book, and both of them were hosted by us there in Eugene.
All right, good. Well, that's about as much time as we have for this part of the agenda. Thank you all for sharing, and I want to remind you all that this is the kind of work that we're gathering to share, and cross-fertilize each other with. And it's also the kind of thing that makes the peace movement actually go in the small towns and in the large towns, but in the, it's right at the grassroots. It's where it's happening. And you're all part of it. And so let's give all these folks a great hand for the work that they've been doing. Can't tell you how important that is. One of the things that's drawing the peace movement together here in Oregon most effectively, I think, is the Guard Home campaign. There are now 54 organizations involved with this. Oregon PeaceWorks is proud to be one of them. And here to talk to us about it today is one of the people who's been leading this all the way through and has been helping out at the national level as well. Former naval commander who's now turned very full-time peace activist. Would you welcome Leah Bolger?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Also the new National Vice President of Veterans for Peace.
Thank you very much. First of all, I've got some handouts, and I'll start them one way and the other way. And I made enough of those for everybody to have one. But there are several other documents on the table back there under the VFP flag, and I don't have copies for everybody on those. But there is a clipboard that says if you want a copy of any of those documents, just sign up and I'll send it to you electronically. So please look them over, because there's a bunch of stuff back there that I think will be helpful to you in promoting this legislation. So, yes, I am heavily involved with the Bring the Guard Home campaign. I've been working on the Oregon campaign, but I'm also on the National Steering Committee for the national campaign. So I'm really occupied with this. You know, this Bring the Guard Home thing is something that it's different, and it's not just based on our feelings as peace activists that, the war is wrong, it's immoral, it's illegal. We all agree about that. But we're not trying to change people's opinions about that. Oh, I thought you were talking to me, and I had no idea what you wanted. Okay, all right. We all agree on those things. But what we're trying to do with this campaign is attack the legal aspect of the deployment of military troops. And approach it from a different angle than we've ever approached this issue in the past. Now, I mentioned it's a nationwide campaign. It started just over a year ago, last January. A House representative in Vermont introduced a bill to say that they wanted, he wanted their governor to refuse to release control of their National Guard. Well, it didn't get passed, but it lit a spark, and now there are states all over the country. There are 21 states and the District of Columbia who have active campaigns to enact legislation in their houses, in their state legislature, to keep the Guard in their state from deploying. So that is really remarkable when you think about the fact that a lot of states don't, their state legislatures don't meet every year, or like ours, or they only meet for a couple months. To consider that almost half the country has now got a campaign going is really, really remarkable. There are 7 states that have introduced legislation. We were the 6th, Maryland was the 7th. And also we have 14 different state legislators that have signed on to co-sponsor either the bill or the resolution or both. And that is more than any other state. I think most of the states have maybe 5 or 6 co-sponsors. So, you know, it's really, really inspirational and motivating to see how Oregon has come along on this campaign. But I want to make sure today that everybody really understands the campaign and the nuances of it so that you can talk to people and you can promote this campaign and feel comfortable in defending the pushback that you're going to get and the arguments that you hear. So I want to go over the theory behind the legislation, and that's on your handout so that it can remind you if you forget. But the point of this is, as I mentioned, it's a legal challenge. And you know, the president must have approval from Congress to deploy military force, to use military force. We know that, and the president knows that. And in 2002, Congress gave him that authority. But in their wisdom, in Congress's wisdom, they made that authority very, very specific. And it had language in it that was very precise and said, yes, President Bush, you are authorized to use military force, but it is to accomplish 2 missions, 2 specific missions. One was because the Saddam Hussein regime was considered to be a threat to our government. And the second was to enforce the UN resolutions about weapons of mass destruction and hunt for those. So now Saddam Hussein is dead, and we know there are no WMD. So there is no legal basis for this authorization anymore. Its terms have been met. So what we're saying is that unless Congress passes another AUMF, authorization for the use of military force, or they declare war under the War Powers Act, then there is no legal basis to send them overseas, and it is up to our governor to challenge this. In fact, it would be unlawful for him to release his troops. And it is his obligation to stand up and challenge this authorization. So that's the point of the whole thing. It's not an easy thing for people to understand because there's a lot of misconceptions about what the law says and what the law doesn't say. And I will agree that maybe there is room for interpretation that, oh, this isn't lawful, the governors can't refuse this. There is room to make an argument on either side, but what we're saying is, what's the downside of pushing this? What we win? I mean, if we don't win, our Guard troops go. If we win, our Guard troops stay. And what we really would push for is for this to go to the courts, for this to be cited in court, and to bring up, you know, all the legal ramifications of the war in the first place, but this challenge. And you know, if you really want to look at the law, the authorization for the use of military force applies to all the military force. Now, our military has 3 components. It has the active duty, it has the reserves, and it has the National Guard. But this campaign is about the National Guard because we can't do anything on a state level about those other 2 components. But the Guard, the governor has a unique situation in that in normal circumstances, when there is not an AUMF, then the governor is in control of these troops. So that's why we're pursuing this angle. We're not ignoring Congress. We think Congress should do something, but we have a power here. We have an opportunity here to work on this component of the military. So that's the reasoning behind it. Does anybody have any questions about the legal reasoning, the theory of it? Yes, Vernon.
I see mention of Iraq in here. What about Afghanistan?
This legislation does address Afghanistan as well. Yes, it does. The AUMF that authorized people to go to Afghanistan was passed in 2001. Because our Guard is supposed to go to Iraq, that's what I've really been focusing on, is that AUMF. But the AUMF that was passed in 2001, we also don't believe is valid because its terms were very, very broad, and it was like, Bush could send people anywhere to fight the war on terror, and it's open-ended, and you can't have an open-ended authorization like that. So it was flawed when it was passed. Yes?
So what legally does close it? And what would close that authorization? What types of things would bring
Well, her question is, what would legally close that authorization? Well, because there is no date set in the authorization, when the terms have been met, and that would be, Congress would have to pass something that says the terms have been met, there is no longer any valid. But because there's no date in there. Now, Congress has tried to pass dates and tie dates to the funding, but it got vetoed. So, it's obviously Congress's intent to put a timeline on it. Yes, Judith.
I've got a question. I just read up about all the drones that are being sent out, the planes that are sending bombs. And does the Guard are they using them also, or is it just the military?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe the Oregon Guard has control over any drones. I think, the only 12 Black Hawk helicopters that we own are gone now. But I don't think we have anything to do with the drones. But I'm not an expert on the Guard and their capabilities. Yes, ma'am.
How many Guard members are deployed in Iraq?
Countrywide?
No, from Oregon.
For Oregon, well, right now I don't think we have too many, but we're getting ready to send at the end of March approximately 3,000. We've already sent. This is the biggest call-up since World War II. It's about half of our state strength of 7,000.
So they're going to be gone during the fire season?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah.
right.
One entire fire season, one entire ski season.
Right, and the other point is that was made on the air on a radio interview I did with the public affairs officer for the National Guard said that 40% of those that will be going this time have been there once before, and 20% have gone more than twice. Yeah, Mary Alicia, yeah.
Do you have any information about the fatality rate of our Oregon National Guard? I've heard that it's one of the highest in the nation.
I've heard that as well. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I've heard that per capita that yes, it is. It's very high. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any information or kind of underground stuff in terms of where President Obama is on this?
Well, he has publicly said he wants to bring all the troops home within, that has been a little bit one of the counter arguments of we want to let the president do what he wants. This challenge is not to challenging the president. Yeah. This is a challenge to the legal authorization. And we're saying, okay, you can use the Guard, but you've got to have a legal mandate. So pass another AUMF, Congress, if you really think they need to be used. So it's not a challenge to Obama. In fact, I think it would be helpful. When he starts bringing people home, he'll say, yeah, this is what the people want. I
don't construe it as a challenge to Obama. I'm curious as to where he might stand, or if there's been any kind of subtleties picked up of where he stands on the Guard home.
I don't know. I don't know. Yaney.
I have a
question about filling out the card?
Yeah, we're going to get to the cards a little bit later. Okay, yeah, Judith?
If people would ask why we're sending Guard instead of active military or reserves, what answer would you give?
Because we don't have enough active and reserve. The Bush administration has just decimated our military by sending more troops than we have and digging deep into the National Guard. And frankly, he wouldn't be able to pull off all these missions that he's done in the occupation without the Guard. So this is a way, if we could get the Guard troops home, to end the occupation, a back doorway.
Well, it's also a way of pointing out to people that the myth of the Bush administration supporting the military.
Oh, yeah.
Is bogus.
Right, that's right. Yes, ma'am.
So what I'm hearing is, part of the intent of this is, through the courts, is get the conversation out there.
I would love for it to show up in the courts.
Got it.
Yeah. We would love to have that happen. Yes?
Oregon National Guard support these efforts?
Well, now that's a good question. If you talk to their public affairs officer, he would say, no, he doesn't agree with us, and that, I was on this radio show, Think Out Loud on OPB, and it was supposed to be a 50-minute show, and about, I don't know, at least 2/3 of it was spent with this guy talking about how great the Guard is and how capable they are and all the good that they've done over in Iraq. And then I talked about our campaign briefly, but it wasn't really, they're non sequiturs. We're not talking about whether the Guard wants to go. We're not talking about whether the Guard is capable. This is about a legal challenge to the authorization. So you can find Guard members that say, yes, I want to go. And you can find Guard members that say, absolutely, I do not want to go. But it's not a question of whether they want to go or not. It is a question of law. And it is a question of the governor doing what is best for his state, as he's required to do, and not about what's the best way to fight the war in Iraq and, what are they going to do if they don't have our troops. That's not his worry. His worry is what is best for our state. And it is to keep our Guard here protecting Oregonians and their property. So I don't think that is even should be a consideration of what does the Guard want to do. It's not something you get to pick and choose whether you want to go or not. And I do tell people personally, if you want to be on the front lines fighting, you should have joined the active duty. You should be in the Army or the Marine Corps, fighting on the front line, because that's not the intent of the National Guard. So, sir.
I want to clear if this is essentially a legal issue, not a political one.
Right.
And as Oregon taxpayers, we have a legal stake in this. Why can't we, as Oregon taxpayers, file suit to block the Guard? Why do we have to go through the legislature?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on legal matters, but I was going to ask this question: is if you were a member of the Guard and the governor didn't challenge this, could you sue the state government for not challenging it? I don't know. Does anybody here a lawyer? I don't know. That's a good question, but I don't know the answer to that. Let's Kurt.
People should know too that when the Guard comes home, the wounded have to be cared for by the state of Oregon, and their care, long-term care, has to be paid by. So there are financial aspects on this too. And I don't know how much of the equipment maintenance and so forth is paid for by the state of Oregon.
That's another pushback you get, is that the government funds the Guard and it's their equipment, and so they can do whatever they want with it. But the law requires the federal government to fund the state National Guard. And, if they pulled the funding, I think that would be grounds for a lawsuit. They're required to fund them. It's not something they can pull back. How much time do I have, Peter, total? 11:15. Could I know there's several hands. I'd like to just mention a couple of the counter arguments that I hear and address those, and maybe that will answer some of your questions, and then we'll go back to see if we have more questions, okay? A couple of things that you'll hear is, well, the federal government has control of the Guard. the governors don't have the authority to challenge this. Now, once the Guard is, and people will say, oh, the governors can't just pick and choose what mission they want to send their Guard to. That's true. That's true, and there have been court cases about that decided that governors cannot decide if this is a mission that they support or not. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about, so you just have to keep refocusing the point of this campaign is that it's not about the governor saying, no, I don't like this mission. It's the governor saying, you don't have legal authority to take the Guard. So the feds don't have control of the Guard until they are released to the federal government. It comes in, I'm not sure of all the details on when they get the federalization orders, the deployment orders. There are a series of bureaucratic steps. And if any vet here, are there any guardsmen here by any chance? Okay. I'm not really sure of all the legal steps that entails between when they are under the governor and when they are under the federal government. But until they are released to the federal government, then the governor does have the authority, the legal right, the responsibility to make sure that they are not released without legal authorization. The equipment and the funding belongs to the feds. That was an argument that I've heard before and I already mentioned. This is an argument that I heard from one of our state senators. And she said, I've been talking with some guardsmen and they feel like it's kind of a matter of saving face, that for years the Guard was not treated as equals with active duty, and that this is their chance to prove themselves, and they've worked all these years to earn their reputation as a capable fighting force, and now you're going to insult them by telling them that they can't deploy. Boy, it's not about that at all. And so there are probably some guardsmen who feel that way. But it's not about their feelings. And, it just galls me to imagine that you would say, okay, go off and do this mission that we really think is illegal because, we don't want you to lose face or be insulted. It's just amazing to me that even people would, but this was the state senator who told me this.
Can we counter that with, we need you here?
Yeah.
We need you.
Yeah. We need them here to do the jobs they were really trained to do, and their jobs they've been trained to do is not, nation-making building in Iraq. Sir, yes.
One thing that really struck me recently when we had the Secretary of State, Bill Bradbury, talking about global warming was a statistic that I hadn't heard before, which was that the percentage of the Department of Forestry's budget that used to be used to fight fires was 15%. And in recent years that has gone up to 53% of the Department of Forestry's budget used to fight wildfires. Now, with the budget cuts, that's even going to come down. And the percentage is going to go up. And what happens when we run out of money? Well, what happens when we run out of money for private contractors is that they use the Guard. And that's what they're trained for, and that's what we mostly use the Guard for. So you start doing the math. Global warming, taking up more, or producing more wildfires, the Guard going to Iraq, what's, you can do the math. You can figure out what's going on here. When we need them here, they're going to be in Iraq doing something that people in Oregon don't even support.
There are a ton of reasons why the Guard should stay here. Yeah. Just a couple more points I want to make, Dawn, and then I'll ask you. You will hear, and this major that I talked to made both of these points, that the SOFA, the Status of Forces Agreement that President Bush passed on his own, that says that the Iraqi government is now in control, that now supersedes, and that says we have to send the troops there. The SOFA was not ratified by Congress, and Bush does not have the power to enact a treaty on his own. That was a unilateral thing, and it wasn't passed by Congress. It is not. It does not oblige the Guard units to go. The SOFA doesn't. Also, they'll say, well, Congress keeps funding it. Congress keeps funding the war. Isn't that approval? I mean, if they didn't approve of it, then why are they sending money for it? Approval of the money is not a tacit endorsement of the war. And again, you have to have the legal authorization, and it's not necessarily tied together. I use this analogy of, if your child is kidnapped, and the kidnappers say, you give us $100 to feed her, and if you don't give us the $100, we're not going to give her any food, and you give them the $100, that doesn't mean you approve of the kidnapping. That's an example. It's just legally, and this isn't just Leah Bolger saying this. When I work on the National Steering Committee, we have a lawyer, a constitutional expert named Benson Scotch, who has written legal briefs about this, and it is his opinion that approving the money is not an improvement of the war. And when we also, the way they couched the money was, you got to support the troops. I talked to Darlene Hooley, my congresswoman, who said, well, if we don't approve this money, the homes are going to be foreclosed on, and children are going to go hungry because they're not going to get paid, and that's just crap. But here we have a congresswoman that believed that. So the way it was phrased, if you got to pass the money or you don't support the troops, so they passed the money. But that doesn't mean they approve of the reason. So that is not a good argument. And the last one is that people say, well, it's too late. It's too late to stop the Oregon Guard from deploying. There's not enough time. And in all honesty, that may be so, that there is not enough time for the legal process to work. And even if everything goes right and we get this passed, that could be true. But it is so important that we keep working on this and we get it passed so that we set the precedent. Because if one state could get this passed, and I told you there are 22 states involved now, if one state could get this passed, can you imagine the ripple effect that would have? And other governors, no governor wants to be the first one to stand up and say, I'm going to challenge this. So we want to get our House and our Senate to pass the legislation which should give the governor the political cover he needs, the backbone he needs to say, yes, I think that I have a legal challenge here, and I'm doing what's best for the state and the people in my state. And hopefully, if it's too late for our state, it won't be too late for the next state. And we could be the leaders on this. We really have made incredible strides so far. I was talking on a call when I mentioned that we had 7,100 plus signatures on a petition. This was a woman from New York, and she said, how'd you get so many signatures? That's growing. In New York, we only have about 1,500. New York. So you guys have done tremendous work so far. We've made it clear, and we've got some, we've got a rally day coming up on the 15th of March. There will be a rally here in Salem. And then on the 16th, the very next day, will be a lobby day where we're going to be going to each of the offices and encouraging them to either sign on, co-sponsor, or thanking them for being a co-sponsor. So those are two big things that are coming up. And now I'd like to talk a moment about the postcards, and then Peter's going to talk to you about the whole legislative process. In your packets are two postcards. You got two because you have two people that represent you in the state legislature. One is your representative and one is your senator. And now I'm not talking about Congress. I'm not talking about Blumenauer and DeFazio. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people like Chip Shields and Sarah Gelser and Senator Vicki Walker. If you do not know who your state representatives are, or your state senators, we will look that up for you. I have a laptop. The VFP 72 table back there has a laptop. So we can figure out who your state reps are. And then that sheet, that purple sheet that's in your packets, has their office number, and it has the mailing address on the bottom that everybody uses, right. But these postcards, you will note, there's no place to put a mailing address to the recipient. There's just for you. just a second, Barb. And so it's just from you, and what we're going to do is gather them up, and then we will walk them over to the Capitol building and then just hand them to the offices, and nobody has to worry about postage or getting the right address, and it's hand delivered. So when you fill out your cards, if you need help figuring out who your representative is, we can do that for you. And then you can leave the cards with me on the VFP table, and then we'll worry about distributing them in the near future.